Hi, my name is Sanidhya Kalvoda and I work as a project manager with Azure Messaging Team. Today, I'm going to talk about how you can develop and test Apache Kafka applications locally with Azure Event Hubs Emulator. Before we get to the emulator part, let's talk a bit on Azure Event Hubs. Azure Event Hubs is a cloud-native real-time data streaming platform with native Apache Kafka support. It also supports interaction using HTTPS and AMQP protocols. Looking at it from a pictorial point of view, if you see on the left, you have the event sources. It could be a business applications, logs, files, medias, and different kind of streaming data that you would like to ingest to event hubs. With event hubs, you can talk using AMQP, Apache Kafka, and HTTPS protocol. On the receiving side, they could be multiple downstream applications with their own business goals, like real-time stream processing, data analytics, batch analytics, and those applications can read data from event hubs at their own convenience. As we talk about emulators, you might be wondering, why do we need an emulator? In the usual cloud world, what happens is usually you do the dev testing, which we also call as unit testing locally on the dev machine. And then once you're ready with the test results, you go ahead and apply that on the pre-prod environment. If you look at this image, on the left, you have the develop and test section where the local testing would be done. Now, the Event Hubs emulator can be running as a container on the dev laptop itself and can help you validate how the dev test pipeline results look like. Once you're comfortable with the results of the dev test pipeline that you got from the Event Hubs emulator, you could go ahead and deploy the code in your pre-prod environment. Let's summarize our discussion from the Event Hubs emulator. Event Hubs emulator can be run as a Docker container on any laptop of your choice, be it Windows, Linux, or macOS. It supports interaction with Apache Kafka and MQ protocol. In case you're interested in updating or deleting Event Hubs or Kafka topics for your testing environment, you can do so by using a JSON configuration that you can feed into the emulator. With that, let's get to the demo part for Event Hubs emulator. To run Event Hubs emulator, you could use the pre-baked script that we provide in the public repository Azure Event Hubs emulator installer. Before you move ahead, there are some prerequisites to be aware of. Your machine should have Docker Desktop installed. There are some minimum hardware requirements, as well as you need to enable WSL if you're running it on Windows. Once you have cloned it, let's look at the repository structure. If you notice closely, there are three child folders: config, schema, and scripts to the Event Hub emulator folder. Config will be the user-facing configuration that emulator will run with. If you look closely, EH1 will be the default event hub that will be created when emulator starts running. We'll be using the script launch emulator ps1 to launch emulator container now. Before we move ahead, we have to make sure that a Docker desktop is running. Let's move ahead and launch the script. Once you launch the script, you'll be prompted to accept the end user license agreement. You'll notice that the container has started and the emulator has successfully launched. Let's look at Docker Desktop. If you notice, the service is successfully up and we can use the connection string to talk to Event Hubs emulator. Let's look at the Kafka code that you'll be using for the demo today. For the connection string, we're reusing a connection string that we got from the Docker Desktop UI and is specifically built for emulator. As you see towards the end, there's an extra section called use dev emulator to be true. For the Bootstrap servers, we'll be using localhost since the emulator is running locally on the machine, along with the Apache Kafka port 9092. If you remember, we created EH1 in the configuration file, and that's why you'll be EH1 in the configurations here. We use all these properties to create the producer and the consumer client for Apache Kafka and send and receive some events. Let's go ahead and use the mv and w command to build the Java code. Before the events are getting sent, it will actually do internal Kafka configurations and build the producer config clients. If you notice, we have successfully produced events as a topic along with the keys value pair as you notice on the screen. Similarly, now it will be creating a consumer client with the consumer config values. Once the event is produced and the consumer client is configured, You'll observe that we have also consumed event on the screen right here. This way, you can use Event Hubs Emulator to dev test Apache Kafka application locally on your own machine. I hope you have found the demo useful. As a part of next steps, please visit the links on the screen to know more about Event Hubs Emulator. If you have any suggestions, please feel free to open an issue on the GitHub repo and we'll be happy to chat. Thank you.